Welcome, everybody. We're here for our third installment of Sustainable Nashville Live, and we're here with Allie Miller from Turnip Green. And my name is Nicole Brose from Urban Green Lab, and we're super excited to be talking to Allie today. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Awesome. So to start off, if you could tell me a little bit about yourself, where do you work, and what brought you to Nashville?
Yeah. So my name's Allie. I'm originally from Pennsylvania, so I'm not a Nashville native, not one of the very few. I am the program manager at Turnip Green Creative Reuse. So at Turnip Green, we do everything focused around reuse and reusing all the materials that already exist in our world, oftentimes in really creative and artistic ways. And I oversee our education branch and programming. So I work with schools and youth and adults and just trying to get people to see within the mindset of reducing and reusing rather than using new materials.
Awesome. And what brought you to Nashville?
I came to Nashville 3 years ago. I was actually a kindergarten teacher in East Nashville when I first came here. I was at a point in my life where I was deciding I wanted to do something that made an impact. I was deciding if I wanted to do education or something else. And I did education for a little bit. I decided it was not for me. Teachers are absolute heroes. It is amazing the work that they do, and especially teachers who have been teaching for years and years. The perseverance that they have it's just amazing. And I don't have that. So it was not the right fit for me. I decided I wanted to look into nonprofit work because I wanted to be doing something that I felt was making a positive impact in the world. I love education. I wanted to be in education still. And I found this position where I get to still work with students, still get to educate people, but have a little bit more freedom and creativity in my position.
That's awesome. What drew you to sustainability in particular?
So I've always had kind of like a sustainability interest, but I never made it a huge priority in my life before working at Turnip Green. I am from a pretty small rural town in Pennsylvania, and I grew up outside. I grew up on farms. It was just being outside and in nature was always just a part of my life. And until I kind of moved away from that, I didn't realize how far you can get from that and how distant it is from, my current life in Nashville, and how much I really had to work to make sustainability and nature and thinking about the environment a part of my life. So that's why I was really excited to get involved in Turnip Green, because I get to think about things like sustainability and the environment and environmental justice in my day-to-day life.
I love that. So on that note, how does your role in Turnip Green in general, how does that intersect with sustainability and building a sustainable community in Nashville?
Yeah. So my role within education at Turnip Green, my goal is really to change people's mindsets about how we see consumerism and how we see the materials around us. So a lot of my, day to day can look like working with a group of 5-year-olds and teaching them how to reuse a CD and tile scraps and a cardboard tube to make a robot. And that's awesome. That's super fun. But I think more importantly, it's about teaching people to shift that mindset of, and we see it with kids we work with all the time, to have them think about every single thing they use. Where did it come from? Who made it? Who has this material already impacted? And how am I going to change it? And we see it with our students all the time, that we have students in our after school programs. By the end of the year, we eat lunch, and if one student tries to throw away an uneaten apple, somebody's like, "Stop that, what are you doing? I'm going to eat that when I come in from recess." Like, that's so wasteful.
I love that.
Yeah, and I grew up in that kind of mindset. I grew up in a family where, we washed out the bags that cereal were in so we could reuse them and put stuff in, because we're not going to buy Ziploc bags. It's crazy. And I think it's really moving to me when I see students taking that mindset into their own lives and, holding their peers accountable for it.
That's so great. I personally love the work that Turnip Green does, and I've been involved with you guys for a lot of years. Could you share what Turnip Green's mission is and overall what the organization does?
Yeah, so Turnip Green's mission is fostering creativity and sustainability through reuse. So we have those two sides of both sustainability and environmentalism and thinking about the earth, as well as creativity. And lots of times that's an art, but I think even more so, we need creativity in the sustainability world as well to push us past the current challenges we're facing. And we do all of that through reuse. So we have kind of our home base in our retail shop in Wedgwood, Houston. And in that shop, whenever we're open, we're taking in donations. So things you have at home that you can't recycle, you don't know how to reuse them, but you think, oh, this still has value. You can donate it to us, and we're gonna sort it and process it and clean it and put it out on our shop floor, and then people can come and purchase things and reuse them. We actually just reopened on June 2nd, and we've been open 5 days a week. Before closing in March due to COVID, we were taking in about 100 pounds every hour that we're open. And since June 2nd, we're taking in 500 pounds
oh my gosh.
every hour we're open. Yeah, so we've been slammed, but it's wonderful. I think it's just been so amazing to see how many community members throughout 3 long months of being in our homes did not forget about reusing and did not say, whatever, well, it's COVID, we'll just throw this away anyway. So that's been really awesome. So we do that. We reuse materials in our shop and put them up for purchase. We have an open studio where people can come and create. We have a gallery where we show artwork that reuse artists in the Nashville and Middle Tennessee community are making. And then we have our education programs, which is what I do, and trying to teach everyone in Nashville about how to reuse and how to live more sustainably.
Awesome. That's a lot of really good information. Are there any misconceptions people have about your organization?
Oh, that's a great question. I would say the biggest one is for me, at least within education, I kind of touched on earlier, but I think lots of times I get a misconception that people think like, oh, well, you're an arts and crafts organization. And we're very crafty and we're very scrappy. Anyone who has been to Turnip Green knows that, like, we don't purchase anything. So everything in that shop is, there's weird stuff. We don't purchase our bins. We don't purchase our shelves. Everything is remade. And I think lots of people think like, oh, well, your classes are just teaching kids to make crafts. Like, oh, that's cute. That's fun. But like I was saying, I think really what we're trying to educate on is shifting the mindset of thinking that I need something new and that new is better. That a brand new glue stick or a brand new marker is better than one that has been loved a little bit before. And trying to make people rethink a little bit and realize that something that has been loved by somebody else is probably better. It's better for the environment. It's better for people. And it's a way to build community and grow in sustainability together.
That's awesome. What is one question you guys hear often that you wish everybody knew the answer to?
Is this recyclable?
Yeah.
I think that's probably the question we get the most. I get texts all the time. I know our executive director, Leah, gets texts all the time that are, some random thing and saying, is this recyclable? And I guess the answer that I wish people knew is, it's kind of a trick answer, but you shouldn't necessarily be asking, is it recyclable? You should be asking, is it reusable? And 99% of the time, the answer to, is it reusable, is yes. And maybe 1% of the time, the answer to, is it recyclable, is yes, because recycling is it's not going to get as much materials or as many materials out of the landfill as we want, because there's only so much those systems can do, but we can reuse so much more. So
That's a great answer. I'm
Okay.
gonna start using that one.
I don't think it's an exact answer, but it's definitely the question we get the most.
Yeah, no, same here. And I think that's a great answer. We need to be thinking more upstream. Recycling is the last resort, and I wish everybody did that too. Um, can you tell me a little bit about the role you guys play in Metro Nashville schools and how that's changed since the start of the pandemic?
Yeah. So we, before the pandemic, and still currently, because there hasn't been any changes because school has been out, but beforehand, we are Metro Nashville Public Schools' largest free aftercare provider. We run 10 after-school programs and aftercare programs in MMPS, mostly in elementary schools and middle schools as well. So we are partnering with a lot of different schools to help them become more sustainable, start recycling programs, bring reuse art into their classrooms, as well as providing really core services for students that are aftercare systems. So in like our aftercare program, students are with us 3 hours a day, every day, and they are receiving care for free. So that is a huge burden off families, and that's a big barrier to things like school attendance. And with school attendance, educational advancement, if you don't have aftercare, if you don't have childcare after school and school gets out, you have to pick your child up at 2:55. Most people don't get off work at 2:55 p.m. So being able to be there and provide childcare for free for a lot of low-income families is a huge service that we offer. And I love to offer because our after-school programs are some of my favorite, just because it's like one of our lead teaching artists said, her dream is to start a turnip green school. And that's essentially what it is. We're serving up to 100 students every day. And it's a mini turnip green school where everything is sustainable. Everything is reused. So yeah, I think those are the biggest partnerships we have with MMPS there.
That's awesome. And how has that changed since the pandemic started? So kids aren't in school anymore.
Yeah. So since the pandemic, we obviously have not been able to see our students as frequently as we would like to. We have started a program where we can get the resources that students need directly to them through creativity kits. I actually am sitting in my spare room, which is filled with creativity kits right now. And they're just, there's like 50 just around here. But we started this program where we were creating material kits, putting everything into one neat package, creating lesson plans that went with them, creating YouTube videos with demos, and then we were distributing them at MMPS meal sites. We're continuing to do that this summer at community cheese resource sites. So there's things in them like, this one is a steam kit, but there's packing peanuts. There is a trophy piece and yarn and what's this? Chopsticks. Just all kinds of stuff. And students are making collagraphs with these. Students are making floating machines to try and get something to float, hence the packing peanuts. But yeah, we've been able to do that, which has been really great for us, that we've been able to see students. And we've gotten really good feedback from families and students too, especially because there have been a lot of accommodations made due to COVID and education, specifically around virtual learning and tech, but those gaps can't be closed overnight. And there are still a lot of students who don't have consistent Wi-Fi, don't have consistent tech available to them. So they can't access all of the learning opportunities that every other student may have, or that a lot of students may have. And we've had a lot of feedback that getting physical material resources into hands of kids has been the most helpful thing. So we've been excited to get to do them. We've distributed over 2,000 in April and May. And then we have opportunity now, interns in the summer, and they're working on building some of their own that they want to create for younger students. And we're going to start distributing those in July.
That's awesome. And I love how you guys were so innovative so quickly too, because this was all so unexpected. And
yes,
I think that's just so great and admirable. A little bit of a different question, but what do you guys do with the items that you can't sell or use in the store?
That's a great question. So we do have an accepted materials list online. So if it's something that we think has a better home, we try not to take it to start with because we don't want to get backlogged and we don't want to get in a situation where we have something sitting on our shelves for 5 years and it's not moving. So first of all, things like books, things like clothing or household items, there are other reuse stores that can use that item for the item it is and, give that item a little bit more dignity than somebody, finding a pair of pants and ripping them up and resewing them and creating a fabric collage out of them. So we try and direct things like that to a different reuse distributor. Things that maybe we get a lot of and we can't move it, we really try and come up with creative solutions for it. So let me think about, we have so many things that we have so much of. Here's a good example. So fabric squares is something we have a ton of. So we work with a lot of architecture and design firms who have fabric samples, and usually upholstery samples, which are really thick and heavy. And, we'll get like 2,000 or 3,000 pounds in at one time. We have so many of them. So we're always trying to find creative ways to do things. So that kit I just held up, these are at my house because I'm mailing them out. So they're in mailers. But the ones we've distributed at sites, we found some really amazing volunteer seamstresses, sewers, whatever the word is, people who sew,
Right.
who put the fabric squares together for us and sewed 3 sides of them and created like a makeshift pouch so we could put all of our stuff in them. So that's one example. Most of it is just trying to come up with creative solutions. We have a really engaged shop staff that we do a walkthrough every Monday, and they identify what has been here forever and hasn't been touched, and who might want this. How could we get it to move? Sometimes it's posted on Craigslist. Sometimes it's partnering with other organizations. So people like Pencil, people like, there are some other reuse distributors who come in and shop all the time, and we'll take, all of our paint or all of our markers or something and reaching out to them. There's some niche items that sell on eBay that, I have no idea who wants them or why they would want them, but people want them. It's just being creative and finding the right buyer.
That's awesome. So it's really, the goal is just keeping it out of the landfill.
Yeah.
Every time. So what is the craziest thing somebody's ever donated?
Oh gosh. We have gotten horse teeth. That was a weird one.
Yeah.
We've gotten normal human teeth. We have gotten very strange things. A lot of we have interns that just started this week. I was talking to them through safety and our safety protocols and how, if you see something strange in a donation, please don't touch it. Like that is probably the only things that we ever landfill. If something comes in, I one time pulled out a bag of used contact lenses. That's not necessarily something other people should be touching.
Right.
I would say those are the strangest things. We get in silly stuff all the time. We just got the other day like this huge rabbit costume. It was like, 4 times my head of it. It changes every single day.
That sounds like it keeps it fun and interesting.
It does.
So what is your favorite memory as a part of Turnip Green Creative Reuse?
That's a great question. Favorite memory?
Or favorite project you've been a part of?
Oh goodness. I'm really bad at choosing favorites. I'm gonna just say what we're working on right now is we work with Opportunity Now interns every summer. For people who don't know, Opportunity Now is a program through city funding that is designed to better prepare young people in Nashville for the workforce. So they directly employ ages 14 to 24. We work with ages 14 to 16. And we serve as a host for these students' first jobs. So they come and work with us as interns. I describe the program as half first job and half summer camp.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just so fun. Especially this year, and especially with movements around Black Lives Matter and social justice, and seeing Teens for Equality who are, organizing these huge protests in Nashville, I've just been so impressed with the students that we get to interact with, and so honored to get to work with them every day, that they just come in and they are so positive and so enthusiastic and so solutions oriented, and really, really, you know, just wanting to learn more, very intellectual. And I think I just feel so lucky to get to work with them, and to get to, learn from these students who have so many better ideas than
Mm-hmm.
so many, adults in the sustainability field, and getting that to kind of like expose them to some of their first, real job roles, and get to work through that with them.
That's awesome. Today's teens are really wasting no time. Like they are
Yeah,
going to make changes and they're going to do
yeah,
it now.
they are on it. I love it.
I love it too. I'm so inspired every day. And I love that you guys are doing that for our community, because there really is a gap that needs to be filled with teaching kids how to get into the workplace.
Mm-hmm.
So how can Nashville support Turnip Green Creative Reuse?
Yeah. So there's a lot of different ways. We have a lot of different opportunities, and we try and make sure that whoever, no matter their skill set or their background, can engage. So donating is obviously one way, donating materials. And that's just, it's, can be equally a service to Nashvillians, as well as um, something that, is impactful for the rest of the community. So donating your, swag that you get that you don't want, your lanyards, your little things that end up at, the bottom of your closet and you no longer want them. Donating materials is great. Donating time. So we have a really robust volunteer program. When we take in donations, we generally get them in what we call cluster bins, because they're just a bin of random materials, and there's probably one bottle cap and one paper clip and, two balls of yarn and just, all kinds of stuff. And it takes a lot of time and effort and energy to sort those and clean them and make sure they're really nice and neat. And we have a lot of really amazing volunteers who have a skill that I do not have at all, which is like organizing physical materials and making them beautiful. I do not have that marketing brain. But if you are somebody who really enjoys those kinds of tasks, we have a lot of volunteers who say, I just like to sit on my couch and watch TV and roll yarn for 4 hours, and it's so calming. So that's a way to get involved if that's something you think you'd be interested in. Volunteering in education programs. When school starts again, we're always looking for volunteers who can commit to 1 day a week or 1 day every other week to come and, read with a small group. Or, if you have a special interest, we have a volunteer who comes every Tuesday, and he brings his guitar and he plays Old Town Road with the kids and all jump around free.
Oh.
So yeah, donating, volunteering, shopping, come in, try and, if you haven't been, just visit. I think Turnip Green is a place that is really magical and different, and it's really hard to explain or envision until you walk in. And we very commonly, every customer who comes through says, oh, this place is amazing. This is so different. This is crazy. And sometimes this is really overwhelming. So you have to come multiple times. So if you haven't been, come visit, and, think about the next time you're buying anything, really, how could I reuse instead? And think first, oh, well, does Turnip Green have that, before you buy something new?
That's really good advice. So Urban Green Lab launched a campaign called #FindYourLab, which encourages everybody to explore sustainable living and create a lab of learning in your own life. So can you tell us what you're currently working on personally to live a little more sustainably?
Yes. So even though I work at Turnip Green, I am not really an artist, or at least not a visual artist.
Mm-hmm.
I would call myself a minimalist, and I really do not like things. Which working at Turnip Green is very overwhelming sometimes. So I don't have a lot of stuff, but the thing that I buy all the time is food because
Mm-hmm.
I'm a huge foodie. I love to cook, I love to eat. The best thing about the quarantine has been cooking at home every single day. And something I'm trying to do better, I recently read We Are the Weather by Jonathan Safran Foer, which is a really interesting book. It's a weird form. It's kind of like a long form persuasive essay. I encourage people to read it. But he talks a lot about how the current American diet is really affecting climate change, and then also how climate change is already affecting people around the world, and how the people who are currently affected by climate change and who will be affected by climate change more and more in the future are marginalized communities, people of color, low income people, the intersections of those two things. And he talks a lot about how I think it was Sri Lanka, but there's a country that in Southeast Asia that has the lowest animal product consumption, and they have the lowest carbon footprint of any country per individual
Oh,
person.
wow.
But they have the most impact from climate change, and how there's already so much flooding and there's so many climate refugees already. So I encourage you all to read that book. It has been really moving to me. Something that I'm trying to do is eat more locally. And I've been trying to, what he recommends is, um, he makes this interesting case about actually eating vegetarian is worse for climate change than eating vegan every meal except one per day. So I've been trying to switch over and do more like eat vegan except for dinner,
Mm-hmm.
rather than trying to eat vegetarian all the time. Because I realize I eat a lot of cheese. I eat a lot of dairy. I
Mm-hmm.
eat a lot of eggs. So that's something in my own life I've been trying to do.
That's
It's
hard. Good for
really
you.
hard,
Yeah.
especially when you love food. But
Yeah.
I've been getting cookbooks out, and I've learned a lot about. I lived in China for 2 years, and I've been learning how to cook Chinese food, which is heavily vegan. I've been learning to cook Indian food, which is heavily vegan. So that's been really exciting.
That's awesome. And what was the name of that book again and the author?
I read We Are the Weather by Jonathan Safran Foer. I would
Perfect.
also recommend, if you're interested in cooking and vegetarian and some vegan cooking, there's a cookbook Indianish by Priya Krishna.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about Indian American cooking, and most of the recipes are vegetarian and most of them can be made vegan. And it's been so fun and exciting, and it's like a good way to, you get to eat good, interesting food and still be vegan. So
That's hard to do. So
it
that's
is.
great. I'm
I get
glad you
bored.
found those resources.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that pretty much wraps up the interview. Is there any upcoming events or anything you want to plug before we go?
Yeah, so Turnip Green upcoming events, that's a great question. We were participating in the Wedgwood Houston Art Crawl the
Mm-hmm.
first Saturday of every month. That's not happening, but we are doing virtual art crawls. Our next one is July 3rd, which is a Friday, because the Saturday is July 4th. But we'll have a virtual art crawl then. And then also we have our biggest event of the year, which is Reduce, Reuse, Repeat, which is on July 25th from 6 to 8. We usually have like a big in-person event with cocktails and silent auction and music and all of these things, which we can't do this year, but we're doing a virtual event over Zoom, and we're really excited about it. We have a ton of just very creative, very different live performances lined up, from, comedy to yoga to music to everything in between. And we're still doing our silent auction. We're gonna have VIP kits with little sustainable cocktails going out. So it's gonna be super fun, and I invite everybody to come and participate. We have some really cool items to bid on. I've already thought about everything I'm going to bid on and started budgeting for it. So yeah, that's July 25th, 6 to 8, and it's on our Facebook. So we'd love to have as many people as possible.
Awesome. Well, that sounds super fun. Thank you again to Allie for participating in Sustainable Nashville Live. We're super grateful for you guys, and we're super grateful that Turnip Green is a part of our community. And that's all we have. Thank you to everybody for watching, and remember to live sustainably.